Hi, I'm Reverend Kim Polchow from Marshfield United Methodist Church. I am here with a visiting dog, Alaska, who you will probably see because she cannot stand to leave me alone when I'm recording. Maybe you'll just see her flappy tail. Anyway, I feel weird today. I got some flour in my hair. I'm not like cosplaying 18th century France, although I have been reading about 18th century France. I put flour in my hair to record a video for next week's sermon. And so now it's a strange feeling. Anyway, today's sermon is about the difference between faith and religion, and I think it's something that's helpful for us to know, particularly when we get into conversations with Christians who have different beliefs than we do. So I hope this time is worshipful for you. I hope this sermon is helpful for you, and I hope that you have a great week. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the streams.
Woe to you who long for the day of the Lord. Why do you long for the day of the Lord? That day will be darkness, not light. It will be as though a man fled from a lion only to meet a bear, as he entered his house and rested his hand on the wall, only to have a snake bite him. Will not the day of the Lord be darkness, not light, pitch dark, without a ray of brightness? I despise your religious festivals. Your assemblies are a stench to me. Even though you bring me burnt offerings and grain offerings, I will not accept them. Though you bring choice fellow offerings, I will have no regard for them. Away with the noise of your songs. I will not listen to the music of your harps. But let justice roll on like a river, righteousness like a never-failing stream. Be careful not to practice your righteousness in front of others to be seen by them. If you do, you will have no reward from your Father in heaven. So when you give to the needy, do not announce it with trumpets, as the hypocrites do in the synagogues and on the streets to be honored by others. Truly, I tell you, they have received their full reward in full. But when you give to the needy, do not let your left hand know what your right hand is doing, so that your giving may be in secret. Then your Father, who sees what is done in secret, will reward you. And when you pray, do not be like the hypocrites, for they love to pray standing in the synagogues and on the street corners to be seen by others. Truly, I tell you, they have received their reward in full. But when you pray, go into your room, close the door, and pray to your Father who is unseen. Then your Father, who sees what is done in secret, will reward you. And when you pray, do not keep on babbling like pagans, for they think they will be heard because of their many words. Do not be like them, for your Father knows what you need before you ask him.
My apartment in China was tucked away at the back of the campus, sort of off camera to the right there, near a strange cement amphitheater that looked like a place where maybe something got sacrificed sometimes, or gladiators fought to the death. I didn't know what the amphitheater was for, and nothing ever happened in it while I was there. Under the amphitheater, though, I discovered a treasure. It was a ring of rooms, very small, that just had a piano in them. And so I called my mom and I said, send all my sheet music. Send all my sheet music. And when I wasn't in class, the kids weren't having piano lessons, they were in class, I would go and play and sing, American pop music to my heart's content. It was my happy place. I could pretend I wasn't even in China. Until a Chinese vocal teacher popped her head in one day and said, "Do you know any Chinese songs?" And I went, no, no. And she said, I am now your teacher. Over the next few weeks, she wrote out lyrics in a way I could read while I studied the sheet music. I tried to sing the songs with her, and it was a disaster. It was so bad. So she brought me recordings of the songs she wanted me to sing, and I listened to them, and I practiced, and I tried to sing them, and it was just as bad as before I'd ever heard them. Now, I've taken vocal lessons before. I'd learned to sing in different styles, but I couldn't even tell like where in the body the sound was being formed for Chinese singing. So the city I lived in, Suzhou, had its own style of opera, and it is one of China's greatest cultural treasures, I guess. They had their own opera school. My self-appointed vocal coach sent me to the opera one day to watch a performance of her protege. And for 2 hours, I listened to a bunch of cats fighting. I watched a Suzhou-style opera. I thought she had me go so she could prove to me that she actually could teach someone to sing. But those 2 hours were some of the worst hours of my life. It was so bad. And at our next session, I said, I quit. I never wanted to really do this anyway. I can't do it. It's too foreign. My voice is not made to sing Chinese music. So my vocal coach said, did you like the opera? No. I'm sure your student was great at whatever that was. I'm sure it's very special, but I don't like any opera. I don't want to be disrespectful, but I thought that was awful, painful to listen to. I went home and I mocked it to all the other foreign teachers. And she grinned. She said, oh, good. Then it went as I planned. Let me hear you mock it. Show me what you showed the other foreign teachers. Make fun of Suzhou-style opera to me. And I thought, I'm going to get deported. This is a cultural treasure. And I felt about 2 inches tall, but I took a deep breath and I went, okay. Ting hua lei chang yi jiang. And she jumped up and said, that is it! That is how you sing in Chinese. You got your voice to come right out from between your eyes. And I went, oh, yeah, that's where that comes from. And that's when I began learning in earnest. She taught me some of the classic soprano repertoire, local songs, pop songs, all the revolutionary songs I could handle. I wasn't really singing them in my voice. I didn't even feel like I was singing. I was just mimicking whatever the famous recording sounded like. So my music teacher dragged me everywhere to show off her American jukebox of Chinese music. In China, there were lots of Chinese people who were trained to sing Western songs. But she had the eighth wonder of the world. She had a white girl who sounded like a bunch of Chinese girls. And I felt like a trick monkey, and she was my organ grinder. She just took me all over the place. And one day I sang on a moving train. A group of foreign teachers was moving between two cities. We were young and in a hurry. We like to do just like you go to the ticket office, you take the next train, you take the cheapest ticket. It costs 87 cents usually to go to Shanghai. And you'd stand in a car, usually filled with hard benches, lots of people, chickens, whatever was moving that day. And we didn't want to wait, 30 or 45 minutes and pay a whole $1.74 to sit in a nice soft car that was fairly empty. It just felt a little snotty to us to be like, no, we'll wait and take the nice train. So we just took the cheap train and we rode with the locals. That's not really how the Chinese people saw that choice. Occasionally, people were pleasantly interested to see foreigners in the car with them. Most of the time, they ignored us. Sometimes they were embarrassed. And sometimes they were angry. It depended on what the news that day was saying about Americans. It changed from day to day, and we couldn't read it, so we didn't know what kind of day it was going to be. And it depended what region we were in. So we're in the car, we're minding our own business, and somebody got angry about our presence. He started ranting quietly, but as people responded to him, he was emboldened and he got louder. He said, "Why are they here? Why are they on this train? Are they here to stare at us? To see our poverty? Why don't they take the better car? They can afford it. Americans are such horrible people anyway. Why do we allow them here?" Now, this kind of thing had happened to the foreign teachers before, and we'd tried various ways to de-escalate it, and none of them had been successful. But this time it was the most hostile. People were joining in with the speaker. They were getting agitated. They were angry. They were pointing. They were yelling. And then the people in the back of the car started to get up, to stand on their seats so they could watch what was going to go down. And it very much felt like something was going down. The situation was escalating in our silence. And it just felt like something very, very bad was going to happen. So I took a deep breath, and I channeled all my love for their country, and with my own voice, I sang, "东方红，太阳山，中国出了个毛泽东。他为人民谋幸福，我爱哟，他是人民大救星." And what I sang was the anthem of their revolution, which that year was 50 years old. And it was silent in the car. And one of the foreign teachers said, "What have you done?" And then all the people in the car except us sang the next verse. And they started to cry. They were just overcome with patriotism. And they just started coming up and shaking my hand and thanking me, bowing, thanking me for singing their song. They'd never met a foreigner who thought their music was worth learning to sing. And they understood in that moment that we weren't there just to observe their life. We were there to participate in their life. They knew my song was an act of reconciliation and true appreciation of their country. If there had been any hint of mimicry or mockery in that song, things would have gone very badly on that train. Singing that song was a very, very dangerous thing. Religion can be a very, very dangerous thing. Faith is the seed of love for God that we hide in our hearts. It's our personal belief. It sprouts throughout our lives and gets us through all the moments, good and bad, in private relationship with God through Jesus Christ. Religion is not the same thing as faith. Religion is the public declaration and participation in acts inspired by our faith. Religion is how you show and practice your faith. It's what church you go to. It's when you go to church, all that stuff. When someone criticizes you, or how you worship, or where you worship, or how you were baptized, or when you take communion, or who gives you communion, they're not criticizing your personal belief. They're not criticizing your faith. They're criticizing your religion, your public expression of your faith. Can you see the difference? So when people come to me and say, I believe in God, but I don't go to church, or I'm spiritual, but I'm not religious, what they're saying is they have faith in God, but they don't publicly practice that. And I know Christ put us together for a reason. These folks haven't yet found a community in which they feel comfortable acting on their faith publicly. So a lot of people have faith, but they don't live it out in community, which means it's harder to grow in your faith in a healthy way if you're doing it by yourself. So our faith inspires our religious practice, and our religious practice fuels our faith. They are related, but they're not exactly the same thing. Faith, divorced from religion, can stagnate, right? There's nothing to make it grow. So here's another way to think about it. My job is religious. I lead a religious community where we come together to publicly share and act on our personal faiths. But you know what the first requirement for my job is? It is not public speaking. It is faith. Think for a moment how dangerous I would be to your community if I led our religious practice, but I didn't believe in God. Ugh. Religion divorced from faith is very, very dangerous. So there's this theme in the Bible about God not liking religion very much. And when you're doing your own Bible study, I don't want you to stumble over these parts because it comes up a lot. Amos has this particularly scathing diatribe about how much God despises religious practice. And then we have Jesus going off on religious practice in Matthew. And the Amos passage is actually part of a much larger diatribe against Israel and how the people split their time between oppressing people and going to worship. First, I'm going to go to church. Second, I'm going to go beat some people up, take their money. People who have faith, who truly love God and neighbor, they don't usually spend their other time oppressing people. I mean, that just doesn't, how would that work? So what Amos is saying is not God despises religion. And I think sometimes we want to take the easy route and just say, oh, well, God despised their religion. But this is the word of God for today. What God is saying is, God despises religion divorced from faith. And the Matthew passage is part of a larger conversation Jesus is having about the difference between doing things that earn you earthly rewards and the things that earn you heavenly rewards. And this is the passage, that will end up with the conclusion of verse 21, for where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. What did I call my treasure at the beginning of the sermon? The room with the pianos where I could go and pretend I wasn't in China. That was my treasure. Where was my heart? It wasn't in China. What Jesus is talking about is religion divorced from faith. And that's why he says that people who give to the needy in public or pray loudly with lots and lots of words and grandiosity, they've already received their reward. They got the appreciation of others for their fine religious practice. If they'd done it privately, not for the sake of religious recognition, but out of faith, their reward would be where their faith will take them in the end. It would be a heavenly reward. But no, they did it loud and everyone went, oh, that's a nice religious job you did. They already got their reward. Both the Old and New Testament share this theme. Religion without faith behind it is not just useless to God, it is detestable. Detestable. God is worthy of worship, and God demands that the worship religious communities give is given out of faith. It's not given for show. It's not given because that's just what we do. It's not given out of lots and lots of practice. It's given out of faith. Does God care if the music we sing to God was written in 1776 or 2016? No. Does God care if there's stained glass or a screen? No. Does God only want us to study the version of the Bible that was written in 1611? I heard a snort. No. Will God only accept into heaven people who were brought to him by pastors with a certain DNA profile? No. Good for you. Are we only allowed into the kingdom if we were baptized in a certain amount of water at a certain age? No. Does God care if we mean our worship? Oh, yes. Oh, yes. I think God listened to the worship wars of the 90s and the early 2000s and was like, could you just mean it? Could you just mean it? However you do it. I mean, it's kind of like the Chinese singing, right? It took me a while to get it down, and it was straight up mockery to begin with. And I eventually had it right. I mean, I knew how to push the sound out of right here. I could sound like all the people who made those songs famous. I had it right, but it wasn't true. It was entertaining, but it was empty. It was the form without any substance. But as time passed, and I came to leave the rooms where I could pretend I wasn't in China, as I came to love their country, I started to sing their songs better. And they even started to sound like me singing those songs. You know, in that moment on the train, what saved us was not that I had the form right, but the substance the people could recognize behind it. You know, it wasn't the song precisely, although Mary Had a Little Lamb wouldn't have worked. It was the feeling they could tell went behind it. And it's the same with God. God doesn't care so much about which songs we sing and which instruments we sing to, although Mary Had a Little Lamb probably wouldn't work, Karen. God cares that we feel it when we sing to God. God loves good worship, which means worship fueled by faith. God is looking for that substance behind the form. When we practice our religion, we have to have substance behind the form. There has to be faith behind our religious practice. God demands worship done in faith. Our faith inspires our religious practice, and our religious practice fuels our faith. They're related, but not exactly the same. But that distinction becomes really important when you're in discussion with Christians who are adherents of other Christian religions, right? If they criticize us as Christians, they're criticizing our religion, not our faith. And they're not speaking out of their faith. They're speaking out of their religion, right? And in other words, the Bible didn't teach them to exclude and harass and belittle you for your religion. Their faith didn't teach them that. Their religion taught them to exclude and harass and belittle you for your religion. And our religion teaches us not to exclude or harass or belittle anyone at all. Religion can be a very, very dangerous thing if it's just a thing unto itself. Our practice has to be rooted in faith. God demands it. I am so glad you chose this religion and this religious community to publicly practice your faith in God. Amen.
You are here, moving in our midst. I worship you, I worship you. You are here, working in this place. I worship you, I worship you. You are here, moving in our midst. I worship you, I worship you. You are here, working in this place. I worship you, I worship you. Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. You are here, touching every heart. I worship you, I worship you. You are here, healing every heart. I worship you, I worship you. You are here, turning lives around. I worship you, I worship you. You are here, turning lives around. I worship you, I worship you. Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. That is who you are. That is who you are. That is who you are.